Char. I am up in lovely town Boone. A little bit of a hike for me, waiting for a client, so I thought this would be a great time to share. I had a story earlier today with a group of ladies, and they're wondering how they can go about helping. For me, I was in a domestic violence advocacy platform, so they were asking me specifically about domestic violence and how can we intercept and help people that find themselves in the middle of life situations. And the answer to that is actually the exact same answer that you can use if you find yourself stuck, or if you have somebody who is near and dear to you, or that you love, that is just kind of stuck in life. And it's very painful to watch somebody stay there. And when we remember that we're all connected, and that by helping you today, you might be helping me tomorrow. That's the purpose of all this. So I want to share what I shared with them. And that it was, when I look back on my own story, and I think back to when I was leaving my husband with my children, and I look back the father of my children, when I was leaving that marriage, it wasn't a very healthy marriage. And a lot of it had to do with what I allowed to happen in my life. And that if we look at our lives as wheels, and in the middle of a wheel, we have the hub, and then we have spokes that come off. My life to that point kind of looked like this, which was just a wheel with 3 little spokes. And there wasn't a whole lot going on in my life. And what are these spokes? Well, one spoke was my children. Another spoke was I did daycare at the time. And then the other spoke was my husband. And I didn't have anything outside of those 3 things going on in my life at the time. And I thought, incorrectly at the time, that if those were the center of my world, that I would be able to do a better job. And what I now know is that the problem with seeing it that way is that when one of the spokes, I gotta find the eraser, when one of the spokes goes away, look what happens. My wheel isn't balanced anymore. It's not able to turn. And so when something happened in my marriage and it impacted how my wheel turned, I kind of got stuck. And there was no movement. There was no forward movement. And what I now know that I didn't know, and I wasn't taught back then, and hopefully I'm teaching you, and you can use this to teach others, is that in the course of living our lives, we need to get more spokes on our wheel. And so what are spokes? Well, some spokes, I'm going to put some orange ones on here. I'm going to put some pink ones on here. I'm going to put some blue ones on here. Different spokes could be education. It could be travel, hobby, friends, job, exercise, meditation, faith. Read all of these different spokes allow us to create a balanced life, a balanced experience. When we only have 1 or 2 or 3 and the wheel goes broke, your wheel isn't going to turn. And in turn with that, think about this. In turn with that, so at the time, I'm only going to draw here's my husband's wheel. So my husband has his own wheel over here, and he's got his own spokes. And because we're married, it's not working anymore. Maybe I'm not supposed to draw the husband. But with his wheel, what happened is when my wheel isn't turning, now my husband is dragging me because my wheel's not turning anymore. And his experience is completely different than it needs to be, because his wheel was probably balanced. He had everything in check. I was the one that didn't, and guess who controls all of this? I'm the one that's in control of all of this. So in the platform that I was asked was, how do we help a domestic violence survivor see the situation they're in? And I was like, I don't think it's a domestic violence survivor. I think it's just anyone. If you are not happy in your life, rather than look around and point fingers at the people involved, why don't you get busy looking at your wheel and seeing how balanced it is? Do you have things that are purposely becoming spokes that give you meaning, that align with your mission, that you might take some leadership, you might volunteer. That's another spoke that you have on your wheel. And if you were just starting over, maybe you're back where I was, where I only had 3 spokes and one of them removed. If you're starting over, to remember your job really should be to just focus on getting more spokes. That at any given time, as you introduce a spoke, so you go and you do some volunteer work, immediately by adding that spoke, it's going to start helping to balance your wheel, but it will also make you so grateful and thankful for the wheel that you have and the things that you have on it. And that as you master balancing your wheel and you're able to gain momentum and get through life, you know, when one of the spokes, if you have a lot of spokes on this wheel and then one of these spokes goes bad, maybe you lose a job. Maybe you lose a friend from death. What I know is that with all the other spokes on the wheel happening, it doesn't mean that you don't miss that spoke. It doesn't mean that that spoke wasn't important, but it doesn't impact the momentum of your wheel. It doesn't stop you from continuing on living. And so if you find yourself stuck, look at what you have, how many spokes you have on your wheel. Know that right now, today, there are things that you can do immediately that are going to add more spokes on your wheel to start balancing it. And as it turns, you're going to see, is this one that I keep or is this one that I let go? And if you find a friend who is stuck, you know, the beautiful thing on this is that you can't go in and tell someone else the spokes on their wheel. You can share this story with them and you can share this video with them, but they have to do that work of putting the spokes on the wheel, and they can only do that work if they feel loved and valued enough to make the wheel continue to turn. And so if they're not feeling worthy of a happy life, if they're not feeling worthy of being loved, they're going to allow their wheel to stop turning and for them to stay stuck. So for them to get the wheel moving again, all you have to do is love them. Love them where they're at. And maybe you're going to have to love them a little bit hard for a long time and pour just dollops in them of they're amazing, they're great, build them up, tell them they're beautiful, they're smart, they're fantastic. Maybe if they're a good cook and they don't even realize they're a good cook because nobody told them that they're a good cook, go overboard on kind of complimenting them, because we can never, ever, ever get enough love. You don't ever get sick of somebody dolloping love on you. We do get sick of the balance of that, which is not love. We don't want any of that. There's enough of that in the world without seeking it out. So if you have somebody around you that's stuck, just love them. Share this video, because it's very confusing to figure out, how do you get momentum? How do you get moving again when you're stuck? And when you realize that it's just that easy, maybe you start going to church this Sunday, and through that you make another friend, and in that one day you've added 2 spokes to your wheel with a new friend and a new habit. So I hope that you guys aren't stuck in any capacity who's watching this, but if you are, know that you're pretty freaking awesome, okay? And that you're so loved, and that I hope that this helps you understand where you're at, because we got to get your wheel going. Get your wheel momentum, so that if you're single and you go meet somebody else, now we have 2 moving wheels and you can have a nice little bicycle and just go travel the world and have a great life. Or if you're wondering maybe what's going on in the dynamics of a relationship, are you the wheel that's spinning and you got a flat behind you? Because I was the flat, and I can't apologize to my ex enough. I didn't know I was a flat at the time. I know I'm not a flat now. So I hope you gain some insight for this and know that, you know what, you guys, we are all so powerful right now, as you are and where you are today, and we're all connected. And I hope that this helps you. Now go love somebody like I loved on you a little bit, and have a great day. Bye.